Well, what it looks like is that Unreal Engine is in the future for me. There's so much going on right now when it comes to Unity and this whole price structure thing. So you think everything's going great, in life. There's always something that comes up that you really didn't expect, something that really didn't have to happen, in my view. So you have Unity. If in case you don't know, or in case you've been living in Iraq and you're a coder, and you don't know what Unity is one of the top game engines out there to be able to create games. And so far, what we're looking at is Unity. They're looking at you and they're like, wait a minute, a couple of you guys are making some money. Not all of you, but a couple of you are making some money. I'm thinking I'm going to have an extra cut of that. So what they do is they basically change the rules in the middle of the game, coming up with this price structure thing. So this is Unity on X on Twitter, and they say they want to acknowledge the confusion and frustration. there's no there's no confusion or frustration. There's none. Um, you want to take our money based on your understanding of what was installed or not. And the reason why I say it this way is because what Unity in essence is doing is they're going to be charging people who make over a certain amount of money. I get it. Who make over a certain amount of money, and they want to charge you money based off the install, not based off of how much you make. You think about this for a second. So install, and then you say, well, who's keeping track of that install? Well, it ain't you. I tell you that much. And then you think, okay, do things get hacked or do things get pirated? That's an install. There's a lot of installs, and sometimes I might install something on one computer in one room and another computer in another room, and Unity says we won't be counting secondary installs. We'll only be counting primary installs. So that absolutely means they're going to be tracking who's installing it, where they're installing it, and the system they're installing it. So every time you play a game, a Unity game, and you're just a person who wants to play a game, that information is going back to Unity. You're going to have to tell Unity that you're playing that game. You installed that game. So now they have some insight into you. So this is really uh, encroaching on people's privacy, in my view. So there's a lot that's going on here that really I don't think people are paying attention to. I'm talking about regular people. I'm not talking about the gamers. The gamers are really paying attention to it because now after they announced this new pay structure, people have just lost their minds for good reason, by the way. And I I use Unity because it's a great engine. I use Unity for my students. I teach my students Unity because it's a great engine. They can literally start a business with it. They can right away start creating games. It's so easy to start creating games with it. And I wanted to, instill that in them that they can take this awesome software and make something that they thought they probably couldn't make in the past. Using teams and tools, that sort of stuff. But now that they've done this, and keep in mind, I've installed games at the college to teach learners how to use Unity. But I'm really rethinking this right now because if you can't trust Unity to not change the pricing structure in the middle of the game, okay, so when I say in the middle of the game, it means so let's say if you installed a Unity 2020, not 2020, but let's say, well, 2020 is still good. So 2020, 2021, 2023, right? So you installed that and you actually agreed to the terms and services, right? What they've been doing actually is they've been going back and changing the terms of services. So every time you use 2019, every time you use 2020, you're agreeing to those terms of services, but you're agreeing to the new terms of services, the one where they changed everything. So that's another sleazy sort of thing that they've been doing. So then they say, so here we want to acknowledge the confusion and frustration you heard after you announced your new runtime fee policy. You barely, heard that. People were telling you this before. See, this is also not honest. You didn't just hear about it. It wasn't like, oh, whoa, we had no idea that this was going to happen. People were saying this before. And by the way, Unity has done something like this before. This is not their first time doing something like this. So, we like to clarify some of your top questions and concerns. Who is impacted by this price increase? The price increase is very targeted. In fact, more than 90% of our customers will not be affected by this charge. You know what I hear when I say that? When they say that? Because, see, the thing about the charge, you got to really read that closely. The thing about the charge is that the charge activates after a certain amount of sales, not sales, actually after a certain amount of installs. So what they're saying here is that, let me rephrase this for you. The price increase is very targeted. In fact, more than 90% of our customers will not be affected because their games suck and they won't sell that much anyway. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense to you. They're saying that if you're using Unity, well, you're probably not going to sell much anyway. It's almost like you go to a car dealer, right? And you buy a brand new car, and they say, "Hey, you're gonna need some insurance on that thing." You're like, "What? It's not gonna last?" I know car insurance. I'm talking about the other kind of insurance. They sell you scratch insurance. They sell you look insurance. They sell you water insurance. They sell you everything on your car except for the kind of insurance that you need. You ask, hey, does this cover the engine? They say, no, it doesn't cover the engine. It doesn't cover electricity. It doesn't cover anything that you're absolutely going to need. But you'll be paying a monthly fee for something that you will never use. So Unity is basically saying that their clientele won't be making much, 90% of them, in fact. Customers who will be impacted, generally those who have found substantial scale in downloads, and revenue. That means downloads and revenue will be tracked to be able to come up with this increase. So they have to reach that install threshold. Fee on new installs only. This to me means that they're going to have something inside of your computer telling them whether it's a new install or not, and you have to trust them that they're counting new installs only. How do we count installs? Assuming that the installs and revenue thresholds are met, we will only count net new installs on any device starting January 1st, 2024. That tells me that they already have this in their system. So every time I'm using Unity, and when I create my application, there's backdoors in there. There's trackers in there. There's a lot of other stuff up in there that's making it bulky, that they're tracking everything that I'm doing. Now, for me, I'm not really making games to sell anyway. I'm making them for educational purposes. But what's educational purposes mean? Educational purposes mean that I am not teaching people how to use Unity so they can just go out and have fun. I'm teaching them to use Unity for whatever reason they want to use Unity, which means you may want to use Unity to start a company, to sell an app, to make something for medical purposes. It could be for anything. So you have to have the professional way of using it. And if I'm going to send somebody out in the professional world who I know they're going to just completely destroyed by Unity's pricing structure, that wouldn't be something you would want to do as an instructor, I don't think. You already know it's a dead end, yet you're teaching it. So I'm not sure if that's the case 100%, because they're changing it as time. There's a lot of uproar. They're changing it. But this is what it is right here. This is the change that you're looking at right now. This is the change. And you can go look at this on X, but basically reinstall charges, fraudulent install charges. We are not going to charge fees for fraudulent installs. We will work directly with you. Oh, on cases where fraud or botnets are suspected of malicious intent. Man, this is a lot of work. You know what I mean? Like, dude, I just want to make a game. I want the game. I want people to buy the game. Now I got to figure out whether this person installed it. I got to go knock on every person's door. John, yeah, may I help you? Yeah, you bought my game for $1. I sold a million of them, so I got to check and see if you had more than one installed. What game you talking about? Because I got a lot of games. Well, it was the one with the frog. It jumps over the building. I just got to check and see if because Unity will be here in a little bit. They're going to come check and see if you have more than one installed. Whatever it might be, whatever the scenario might be, they're going to be checking. And then you know how YouTube works, right? So if you get a strike on YouTube, you got to go talk to them. That means you're not actually working on the project that you wanted to work on. You're now doing litigation. So that's basically what's going to happen here. You're going to have lawyers involved and all this other stuff, and they're going to miscount. You know they're going to miscount. They're definitely going to miscount. Something's going to miscount, and it won't be somebody's fault. It'll be the AI's fault or something like that. So web stream games, oh, that's going to be a mess. I mean, even Disney or anybody like that can barely do web streaming. That's going to be a big mess. Charity-related installs, the pricing changes install count will not be applied to your charity bundles initiatives. So what I'm looking at here is that maybe make all your games for charity, and that's what I would do. I would make all my games. The price change and install count will not be applied to your charity bundles initiatives. Okay, so we found a loophole here. So here's what I would do if I were you. If I'm making a game, I would still use Unity. But if that's going to be the case, then what I would do, I would start a nonprofit. We would make games, and anything that anyone gives us is not the price of the game. It is a donation with a minimum donation of $1 or whatever the price of the game would normally be. That's what I would do. But then again, it's Unity. They may change that as soon as they see you do that. So you never know. So yeah, that was their post, and I think it's like this. Man, Unity is such an amazing game engine, but they have been slipping a lot. They've been slipping a lot on a lot of things, and what I would say is that as a programmer, as a game developer, I can't trust Unity if I'm doing it to make money. If I'm doing it for educational purposes, I guess I learning myself or to create something for my friends or to create something locally, I guess I can do that. But then again, if they're going to have a pricing structure like this, if those skills actually improve, as a learner, if your skills actually improve, then you're going to want to make something. And then if you take that much time in Unity, buying assets and, you know, learning the system, learning the pipeline, you're not going to be prepared to learn another pipeline like Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine is amazing. Unreal Engine has been doing some great things. And I think I'm going to start using it more often. I will be honest with you. I don't like the flow of Unreal. I don't like the flow of it. And you know what I think? I think that Unreal, even with the lacking of the flow, I think Unreal would explode if somehow it had a C sharp translator on there. If you can use C sharp, if you can use Visual Studio, or if you can use C sharp with Visual Studio, let's say, or Visual Studio Code, something like that, VS Code, I think almost half of Unity, half of the Unity users and game developers who are upset right now, probably more, would go over immediately. If Unreal were to create a version of Unreal that was C sharp based, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it would be over 50%. I would definitely do it. I would have done it a long time ago. If they just implement some of the drag and drop features or the ability to do what Unity does, just a few of those features inside of a game engine where, let's say if I'm coming from Unity, I can just hit a button and it automatically converts from a Unity user into Unreal. Man, they would get so much. But for right now, there's Unity, there's Unreal, there's Godot, there's a lot of other game engines out there. But it's a shame because Unity is a really good engine. But it's dead now, almost. I think the only way to get out of this would be to to change the leadership. I think that's the only way out. Because once you do something like this, no one will ever trust you. No one will trust you. Here's their apology. We have heard you. We apologize for the confusion. There was no confusion. See, what are they talking about? Confusion. Who was confused? It's like somebody comes and they slap you in the face and you say, "Oh, look, I know you were angry. I'm sorry there was a little bit of confusion." No, there was no confusion. You walked up. You said, "Hey, I'm about to slap you." I said, "Don't do that because I'm going to be hurt." And you did it anyway, right? So a while back, people told Unity knew this. They knew this would happen, and they don't just do things out of the blue. They just thought people would fall for it, and maybe a few people would complain. This is why they didn't really respond right away. So there's no confusion and angst. No, the runtime fee policy we announced on Tuesday caused. Yeah, it caused angst. It caused confusion, I guess, but no one was confused about what you were doing. We are listening, talking to our team members. Well, you probably should have did this part first instead of throwing the action out there and doing it first, pulling the trigger and then trying to pull the bullet back. Talking to our team members, community, customers. You're not talking to your customers. You definitely didn't talk to your community and partners. Maybe you talk to your partners. I don't know. Maybe you just say, "Oh, look, we're going to make a lot of money on this. And we'll be making changes to the policy, just like you just made changes to the policy." By the way, just like you were making changes to the policy when you were secretly changing the old policies. That's like buying a car. You drive it for a few years. You bought it. And then they say, "Oh, we changed the policy. So now every mile you drive, you owe us 10 cents. That's after 5 years of you buying it. And you think that's hyperbole, but it's not. Think about this for a second. Unity went back to 2019, 2020. They went back to those old contracts and they changed stuff. So we still share an update in a couple of days. Oh, we've heard you. Look at this. We've heard you. We don't care about you. Just your money. Just pay and stop crying. You can't afford to move to another engine. We dare you to try. This is so true. This is so true. This is basically what they meant. I apologize for the confusion and angst my previous response caused. Of course. We are listening, talking to our team members, community. We have come with a solution for this. Fire your CEO. That's exactly what I was saying. That you'd have to fire the CEO. That would be the only way to resolve this. You have to get rid of the CEO because that's where these ideas are coming from, and no one's going to trust it until that happens. You know, this happens to other companies, and they have to really just change the path of the mindset of the company, because you may change the policy, but what stops you from changing it in the middle of the night next time? When I say, "Okay, look, I'm going to trust them this time, and I'm going to build this awesome game, and my awesome game hits, and a lot of people are buying that awesome game." Well, basically, that's it. That means that nothing's going to be there. You're not going to trust anything. So yeah, that's about it. That's the whole deal that's happening with Unity. They basically are trying to shaft everybody, and I'm thinking about not thinking about it. I'm definitely going to start using Unreal Engine. This is Unreal. This is Unity right here. Sorry, I think I was showing Unity while I was talking about Unreal. But yeah, this is Unreal Engine. This is basically what I'm going to start using more often. And I think a lot of other people should start using it or using some open source software. All right. Hopefully this was helpful. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys next time.